rookies are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. Game reaction show. 49ers are officially in preseason and just played the Tennessee Titans. And it was an interesting game. I think that there were areas of the game that you really liked what you saw. Some of the players showing up and making some plays and some young guys getting it done definitely got everyone's attention. And that's always what you're looking for when you're in a preseason game. Is you're looking to see individual performances because scheme and basically planning for the game is not what's going to happen. You're not getting any of that. You're getting pure vanilla offense, defense, and even special teams. Because I can tell you, even what we saw in the kickoff and kickoff return is nothing like we've seen practiced. They didn't do any of the specialized kicks, and I've watched most of the games, and I know that these teams are holding back on kickoff and kickoff return. Because if I didn't see that, this would have been disheartening to see what happened in the game, but wasn't really worried about it as of right now. I think it was pretty good. And there's a lot of guys that we should be looking at and just saying, you know what, these guys had good performances. And we're starting to see that in chat. Really excited to see everyone here. Josh is in chat. What's up, Josh? Says hashtag TCC. Yeah, put it in the chat. Hashtag TCC. If you're here, what's up? There's Mr. Corey. Very good. Dermillion's in the house, says a lot of potential. And I agree. Josh is very impressed with Tay Martin and with Frank Darby. I thought both of them had pretty good games. Darby with a nice catch for over 30 yards. Tay Martin with several catches, led the team in receptions. I think he did a very good job as well. And Josh says Nick Zakelj and Pooney with the thumb up. So yeah, Pooney had a pretty good game. It was really a good game. And I was excited about watching everything. And Lou says, hi, Ant. Lots of good and not so good tonight. Pooney and Zakelj. Mustafa, thumbs up. Thomas, thumbs down. Yeah, Ambry Thomas definitely had a little bit of struggles in this matchup. That is for sure, especially when it came to tackling. It was not his best game, and I don't know what's going to be the overall outcome of what happened with the forearm, but he did go into blue 10. He left on a cart. And they're saying it's a forearm. It could be a break. We'll see what happens with Ambry Thomas. But unfortunately, he suffered an injury in this game, and he just didn't really play very good. So it wasn't a great game for him. But we're going to have a great time right now. Feel free to ask any questions, give any comments in the chat, and we'll go ahead and we'll go through them. It's going to be a fun time. I'm going to give some of the things that I saw as well during this matchup as we look at players who performed well and players who are on the ascend and have a better opportunity of making this game. Please, or this team, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe, please give it a 5-star rating. And if you're going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $200 deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use the promo code BELIEVE for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet Online, the game starts here. And I see that there's a lot more of people in chat. Mr. Corey says it was a broken forearm. So the 49ers are going to be dealing with that. We'll see what happens with Ambry. Does that mean he goes on the IR and his season is over? It could be. And what's up to Texas Tio, a.k.a. Tio Roberto? How's it going? How's it going, Unc? Good to see you in chat. Appreciate you coming through. And then we got this from Mr. Corey. What did you personally think of Zakelj and Pooney? So I would say early returns of it, just from my initial view of what I was seeing, I thought it was going pretty good. I think that I want to wait and see the all 22 when it comes to offensive line. It's always easier to see those angles. But I saw each one of them make some pretty good plays in the game, some pretty good blocks. I know that there were some times that they weren't really playing up to the level that I think you would expect from somebody that's going to start a game. But I thought that we've seen. Can you guys hear me? I don't know. I'm having some internet issues here, so hopefully I won't have too many problems. But yeah, I think that both of them are playing pretty well, and we'll see what they do when we get into more of these preseason games. But I think Nick Sakel and Dominic Pooney have definitely earned more opportunities. They've earned more time on the field. And I think we're going to see some more of Nick Sakel and Dominic Pooney. And I think, Pooney did some fun stuff today, pushing the pile and helping Jordan Mason get into the end zone. That was really good. So I think overall, I think those are some pretty good things. And, Lou was saying, hey, what did you think of Nick Sakel absent at the all 22? I thought it was pretty good. I've seen improvements in him at practice every single day in training camp when I was there. And so I just thought that was something that we were going to see. And, the fact that the 49ers felt confident enough to make him a starter tonight should tell everyone where they stand on Nick Sakel. Nick Sakel has officially passed Ben Barch in the pecking order. Today, he was the starting center. He is ahead of Ben Barch there. And we've seen him in practice be ahead of Ben Barch when it comes to guard. So Nick Sakel right now is firmly battling to be one of those interior offensive linemen for the San Francisco 49ers. And I think that's good news. Jess in the house says hashtag TCC. How's it going, Jess? So just off that, I think those two offensive linemen did pretty good. I thought overall, especially the first unit of offensive line. Now we were missing Jalen Moore, but I thought they did a very want him to make. So right now, the offensive line was doing a lot better than last year. We know that was definitely a sour note last year that they were left on. But there were several players I thought that had a pretty good game in this matchup. And some of those guys, were the two quarterbacks, Joshua Dobbs and Brandon Allen, who I thought played pretty good. Especially, everyone was already making those sweeping endorsements of Brandon Allen after the first half. Hey, he's quarterback 2. This is a done deal. And I know at training camp so far, there's been moments where people have been very, very down on Joshua Dobbs. But I thought that people got to see the elements of Joshua Dobbs' game today that Kyle Shanahan really likes. The ability to move in the pocket, to create some extra opportunities, and then he throws the ball pretty well. The more confident he gets within this offense, he will do better and better. So I thought he did good. He was 14 of 20, 146 yards. Now, some of that was in a quick 2-minute drill, which was nice to see him get some throws. But I thought both of the quarterbacks looked really good. I don't think either one pulled away so far, but I think both are very, very legitimate and in the mix for this potential quarterback 2. I think it's going to come down to the very end. This one's going to be a tight one. Mr. Corey says, do you think he passed Barch on ability alone or because he's Purdy's buddy and play a factor? It was 100% on play alone. I've been at training camp and I've seen him consistently outplay Ben Barch. And Nick Sakel is not the same player everyone saw last year. Nick Sakel is better. This is the player that they thought they were going to get when they drafted him in the 6th round. He has asserted himself. He's got his body together. He's in shape. His technique is better. He plays stronger. He anchors better. You could just tell he's a different player. And so, I mean, the whole thing with him and Brock Purdy really doesn't matter when it comes to who's going to play. Chris Foerster does not care about that. He definitely passed him on his merits. You just got to give him credit for that. And Key says, how was Sakel at center? I thought he did pretty good. I think we're going to get a real clear picture when we break down the All-22 film, which I'll be doing on Patreon this week. And we'll get a very good look at how Sakel looked, how he was handling run blocking, because that's something I'm always interested in with Sakel, is those are the hard things to figure out. Did he take the right line? Did he get on the right guy? Was he able to control that block? Those are important things. Lou says Conley looked good. So the Chris Conley that you guys saw tonight, is the Chris Conley we've been seeing pretty much every day at training camp. The guy consistently makes plays. He finds room over the middle of the field, sits down, crossers, catches the football, gets a little bit extra yardage, competes blocking, and makes good blocks. Every once in a while at camp, he'll get a vertical route and he'll make a big play. We didn't see that from him today, but yeah, he's looked really good. He's looked like a consummate professional who has a very comfortable feeling in this offense. He knows where to sit down, where he's supposed to be, and the quarterbacks feel comfortable with Conley, big target and veteran who they get the ball pretty consistently. Willis didn't look too good. Braden Willis struggled a little bit when it came to blocking, and they were asking him to play the fullback role some as well. And that's a tough role. You've got to be able to meet guys in the hole, and we saw him get kind of blown up on one of those plays, and that definitely wasn't the best look. That's why I kind of thought that they were going to start Jake Tungus in that role when they needed a fullback. I know they were going to go with a lot of two tight end personnel sets, but I thought it was going to be Jake Tungus because Tungus had played fullback for the Chicago Bears, and also Jake Tungus had put on weight since then, so his body's different. So I thought he could handle it a little bit better. I think Braden Willis handles more of a move tight end, motion him, move him behind the line of scrimmage, go ahead and trap edge defenders where all he has to do is screen them and wall them off. I think those are better roles for him. So you're right. It wasn't the best performance, but I do think he's playing a little bit out of position. Maybe not something the 49ers want to ask him to do too much of is that fullback role right now. Not Charlie Warner. That's more of what Jake Tungus can do, more of what we could see from Eric Saubert. Those were guys that could handle that role. So I'm a big fan of what they were doing, and that's what we're getting right here. Kawa Chapitu, I hope I'm saying it right, says Tungus looked good. Yeah, he did, and that's the thing he's been doing the whole time. So the tight ends that have consistently looked good at training camp, I think you guys saw Eric Saubert look good today. He pancaked the defender running the football. He had a catch, and we've seen that consistently. George Kittle on the telecast even said he's a mixture of Charlie Warner and Ross Dwelley, and that's what I've been saying. That's exactly who he is. And he's looked good. And so I think Eric Saubert's tight end too. I think after that, we got Braden Willis and Jake Tungus. Cameron Latu, I thought he looked okay today. I definitely wasn't able to watch him that much. We didn't get to see any of the opportunities. I think they were trying to line him up a touchdown when Joshua Dobbs took off and ran for a touchdown, but they did a very good job, and they actually double covered him on the play. It took away the seam route where he was going. So I thought that overall that, we've got some of the tight ends playing really well, and we have depth at tight end. Now, Mason Pline didn't play in this game at all. I didn't see him. Let me know if you guys saw him. But it was, we got a very strong tight end room, even letting Logan Thomas go during the week. So I thought they performed really, really well. And, I thought there were other guys who were really big performers on offense. Jordan Mason looked really good on that first drive. He looked strong. He looked powerful. He was reading the right hole. He looked explosive. And so I think Jordan Mason is exactly what we have seen through training camp. He's been fantastic. None of those reports have been false. He's looked really good. And so I think he just continued that out there on the field today. Somebody brought up in chat earlier, Tay Martin. I think it was Josh. And Tay Martin, I thought, looked absolutely fantastic today, making plays out there on the field. I know he dropped the ball, that long one down the field everyone wanted from Brandon Allen, but he ends up going 5 catches for 58 yards at 11.6 average. I think he put himself, and I know he missed a lot of training camp because of the hamstring. He put himself with a chance to potentially push to make this roster. That's how good I thought he looked in this game. And of course, you gotta do it again. You got to do it next week against New Orleans. You got to do it in joint practices. You're going to have to do it, on the Friday the 23rd when you're playing the Raiders. But Tay Martin is definitely telling everyone, hey, don't forget about me. And I thought he did a good job in this game. And we'll see if it keeps translating. We'll see if the blocking really lived up. But I thought those guys were good on offense. Nick Sakel, another good, I thought, offensive performance overall. Eric Saubert as well looked good for me. So I'm kind of excited about those guys. Those guys made some plays for the 49ers offense. And, we got this from Keys. I said, I heard Shanahan let Kubiak call plays. That was nice of Kyle. And I liked it too because Clint Kubiak was with the Niners last year, and that he's now New Orleans offensive coordinator. And now Kyle lets Clay Kubiak call plays, and Clay's the next one that's going to eventually get an offensive coordinator job around the league. But it was Gary Kubiak who gave Kyle his first shot at calling plays with the Houston Texans, and now he's going to return the favor to Gary's son and let Clay Kubiak call plays. And even though it's vanilla offense, I thought he did a good job. He mixed it up. He made some good calls. And overall, the team on offense executed pretty well. Of course, there was a lull where they had some penalties and some things that went against them that weren't great, including that Ronnie Bell holding call on the Cody Schrader toss play that saw Cody Schrader get to the edge and make a nice run. So those types of things hurt the offense, but I thought overall, some of the guys made some significant plays, and it was nice for Shanahan. He just kind of sat back, let two fresh coordinators go call plays, including Nick Sorensen. They were just doing everything very vanilla. Kalia Davis, Josh says Kalia made some splashes. So if you've been listening to the channel, you know that I've been saying I felt Kalia Davis has been head and shoulders above what we were getting from Evan Anderson and what we were getting from Shaquille Brown. And it wasn't anything against them. He just has his moments. The one thing we still worry about is still balance issues, which he has. And then today, sometimes him flying upfield was fantastic and he blew up plays. And then there was a couple of times he got caught in traps or just flew up and took himself right out of the play. So there's going to need to be a little bit of restraint, but I thought Kalia Davis looked really good today. Out of all the backup defensive tackles, I thought he looked the best. The penetration is something you can work with. The athleticism, the explosiveness, the first step. I think those are things that you like to see. Plus, they hit him with a double team, and he was able to get skinny, bust through the double team, and make a tackle for loss. Those are the types of things that if you're not the biggest defensive tackle, if you can handle that, that's a way to beat double teams and duo blocks in this league and be able to make plays. So Kalia Davis had a great showing, and I think right now he looks like he's the next guy up, that fifth defensive tackle to potentially make this team. So I thought he had a really good game as well. And then we got to talk about D. Winters. I can't believe that I've made it 20 minutes without talking about how good D. Winters looked, especially early in this game. Just being able to pull the trigger, go downhill, and make a play, working off the two pulling guards right on the back hip, working through it and making a tackle. That was a great play. Was it all perfect for D. Winters? No. But I think you see the flashes, you see the moments, and you're like, wow, what could this guy be? And I think D. Winters is earning himself that third linebacker spot. Now, we didn't see Fred, of course. We didn't see Devondre Campbell. We saw Winters rolling with Curtis Robinson, who 4 years in the league is the veteran of the group, and then Jalen Graham. And I thought that D. Winters outshined everyone. The other linebacker that I thought had moments that really shined, besides Ezekiel, had some good plays. Ezekiel Turner had some good plays, but was Tatum Bethune. I thought Tatum Bethune definitely showed some ability there. Be able to pull the trigger, get downhill, make tackles. But D. Winters was fantastic, and the hit that he made on Will Levis, that was a booming hit. That was a great play, and he did really good. His counterpart, another rookie, Malik Mustafa, had a huge hit at the goal line as well. I really like that one as well. I thought that Malik had moments where you saw the moments where you're like, wow, Malik could be a big-time player for the San Francisco 49ers. So I think that Malik is going to continue to work in. He's going to continue to get better and better. Did we see some moments where he got caught with his eyes in the backfield, or looking at the quarterback, looking at the backfield flow, losing track of receivers? Absolutely. He was a rookie playing his first game in the NFL. So you still see some of those rookie moments, but you see the absolute flashes. And I thought he had some great plays. I thought D. Winters had some great plays. They were definitely getting everyone's attention when it came from the defensive side of the football. Another defensive player I thought had a really good game was Rock Ya-Sin. I thought Rock Ya-Sin was out there competing, battling, getting his hand on offensive players, but really not giving up too many catches. I know there were some plays underneath. I think some of those were designed for linebackers to be there in the flats, and Rock Ya-Sin was carrying guys deep, but I thought Rock Ya-Sin did a very good job in this game, and I was impressed. And this is what we saw from camp, consistency from Rock Ya-Sin. So what I'm saying, the 49ers are 4 deep at cornerback, and Rock Ya-Sin would make them 5. course, unfortunately, we don't see Darrell Luter Jr. He's been dealing with injury. That's not helping him. But Ambry Thomas being injured, that might just open the door, and Rock Ya-Sin could be on this roster. It's terrible anytime that there's an injury, but it's just the way it is. And this is what Mr. Corey says. I just want to see development from Zakelj, Winters, and Pooney. And I think you are. I think we definitely saw it from Winters, and I thought Zakelj and Pooney definitely look better. Pooney's looked good all camp, but I think Zakelj looks tremendously better than last year. I just don't even think it's close. And Josh says 2 offsides from TY is horrible for a vet guy. Yeah, you can't make those type of mistakes. And unfortunately, it was the vet players that were making mistakes in this game. You got an offsides by Colt McKivitz. You got, the offside, or you got the Ambry Thomas with the holding call in the end zone, T.Y. McGill going offsides. Like, these are plays that they can't have happen. And you have Ronnie Bell with the holding call as well. But, yeah, when veterans make those mistakes, that's a little frustrating for sure. Lou says maybe they don't want any tape on Pline, probably stash him on the practice squad. I think they would still want him out there getting some reps. So I know the tight end room is extremely deep, and you're trying to get every one of those guys a real look. And so maybe that's the reason. And they might be trying to stash him on the practice squad. But honestly, you're probably going to have to put a guy like Jake Tungus on your practice squad. Jake Tungus is more versatile than Mason Pline. He can play fullback. He can play tight end. So to me, Tungus would make more sense if they were trying to disguise a guy that they could just get to their practice squad. It would be him, because Mason Pline is a pretty good catcher of the football, but blocking he's definitely got to do something. Mr. Corey says, I think Danny Gray is toast. Well, Danny Gray was definitely on my list of players that need to do something. So I had this list where we did the pre-show, and I said guys that need a big showing because I feel if these guys are on the bubble and could potentially be on the way out if they don't perform. And number 1 was Cameron Latu. And I think Latu didn't have a big showing, but I think Latu was at least active and at least made some decent play. So he's still in the mix. I don't think he hurt himself in this game, and I think that's the main thing. Ambry Thomas definitely hurt himself with his play and then literally hurt himself with the injured forearm. I think that's terrible, but Ambry Thomas needed a big showing and now probably won't have any showing for the preseason and beyond. So I don't know what is going to happen with Ambry Thomas. Sam Womack, I thought it was, nothing too incredible. This is kind of what we see at training camp as well. And then Danny Gray. And Danny Gray wasn't available, didn't play in the game, dealing with the shoulder. And when I was at camp on Wednesday, I saw him wearing the blue jersey. He was competing during practice. And all of a sudden I seen him messing with that shoulder again and walk off. Didn't practice Thursday. I kind of had a feeling he might not play in this game. So if he doesn't play next week against New Orleans, it's going to be very hard for Danny Gray to make this roster, especially with guys like Tay Martin out there and performing and getting stuff done. I thought Ronnie Bell needed to have a big showing. I don't think he had a big showing. The ball going through his hands and hitting him in the face mask wasn't good. The holding call wasn't good. The lack of blocking on the kick return, that wasn't great either. I think there's moments for Ronnie Bell, and that's what we see at training camp as well. We still got a couple more preseason games. Let's see what Ronnie can do. But then I thought Kalia Davis was the other guy I listed that needed a big showing, and he answered the bell and had a big showing. I think he put himself firmly in as defensive tackle number 5 with a chance to make this roster. He's got to keep that going, but that's why I put those guys there. And for the most part, nobody really answered the call. Josh says, why no Cowing? The only thing I could think about Jacob Cowing is maybe they don't feel comfortable enough yet with him getting involved with the physicality after the hamstring injury. They were slow working him in, so maybe there's something else there. I don't know. But we've seen him practice on Wednesday, but not a lot of contact. That's Jacob Cowing. He hasn't had a huge involvement in practice either. So I'm guessing Cowing gets a lot of work during the joint practices against the Saints and then plays next week, and maybe we'll see some more Cowing. But Cowing, he's looked good, but we just haven't seen a lot of him because he missed so much time with the injury. So we just got to remember that it's going to take time for him to get back in there. Lou says, would Thomas go to the IR or release with an injury designation? I don't know exactly how they're going to handle it. They could just put him on the IR, which would, in sense, end his season. And then they could reach an injury settlement if that's what they wanted to do. If they wanted to waive him that way or release him that way, they could. I believe that they're going to put him on the IR, and they might just let it toll. If he clears waivers, they might just let it toll and do what they did with some of the other guys. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that's going to be something to watch this week because they will make a decision because they're going to have to add another player to this roster. We'll see who that ends up being because depth has been a problem. Mr. Corey says, I hope Danny Gray makes this team. I think everyone hopes that he makes the team. And so I hope that he gets out there because I want to see him return kicks too, because the speed that we've seen at training camp is just different than everyone else. You saw what happened when Cody Schrader got it one chance to return. He looked pretty good. Trent Taylor and Ronnie Bell are not the answers as kick returners. They were just the safe bets today. There are other guys that need to get an opportunity to do it. We've seen, as far as returners at practice, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, they've both done it. Debo and Kyle Juszczyk, who have seemed to be the number one group so far. We've seen Danny Gray and Cody Schrader. There's been lots of guys that have done it. So there's definitely other guys that are still going to get involved in that, and I think that could be a big part of it. Josh says, I'd rather they just release him, and it could happen. I don't know what the process is. If now they have to put him on IR before they release him, I don't know how exactly that works. I'm not really up on every single aspect of how they have to handle it. I think there is something where you can't release a player just because they're injured. I think there has to be more to it than that. But they could just outright release him. That's for sure. Barrett had 8 tackles, Keith said. So Barrett's an interesting guy because I think, he definitely puts up numbers. And I do see here he had 7 tackles, 4 solos. So it could be 8 depending on who you are seeing reported. I think that you see moments like that from Alex Barrett, but there's also ones like where he jumped too far inside and he got hooked and he actually took Curtis Robinson out of the play. He wasn't supposed to have inside gap on that. He was supposed to have outside and set the edge on the guy coming to kick him out. He was supposed to set a firm edge, and then Curtis Robinson was supposed to fill that C gap, but he didn't do it. He got caught inside, and that's when Tim Ryan called him Curtis Lofton. That's a play that's on Alex Barrett. That touchdown is on Alex Barrett. He's got to set a firm edge there, and he didn't do it. So, yeah, he had 8 tackles, but the thing is the guy made some mistakes that need to be cleaned up. Barrett is a good practice squad player. It's been good for the 49ers, but I think the 49ers, honestly, right now, have a question mark about defensive end 4. I don't think Robert Beal had a game that lets you think you feel comfortable with him as defensive end 4 consistently, but we still have time. How does he do at joint practices versus the Saints? How does he do next week in the game versus Saints? He's going to get a lot of reps. So hopefully he'll get more comfortable within this defensive scheme and be able to step up his game a little bit because I think he needs a little bit more work there. So I'm having question marks right now about that guy. I don't think Barrett's the answer. In fact, I don't think the answer is on the roster. I think Austin Bryant would have probably played better, but of course he was put on IR with an injury. Mr. Corey says, any chance that Kel can beat out Brendel? Fingers crossed. I still think that's a tall order. I think Jake Brendel, the comfort that they have with Jake Brendel is just going to be a little bit more difficult. Now, the knee tendonitis could leave a door open. We'll see. But I think they're building towards this. And I think if John Feliciano wouldn't have got hurt, there would be a legit competition right now between John Feliciano and Jake Brendel for that starting center job. I think that's what they intended, but he's dealing with a knee injury the same way that Jake Brendel is. So it's something that it's just, right now they're dealing with. They're going to have to continue to monitor, but if Zakel could get consistent, then I don't think it's something they wouldn't consider, because one thing Zakel's done better right now through the training camp and then during this game was anchor compared to what I've seen from Jake Brendel. That's just a problem for Brendel. 49ers Breakdown, what's up, 49ers Breakdown? Says Kalia Davis flashed, 100%. Kalia Davis was the guy that was in the backfield, and if you go put on his UCF film, this was UCF Kalia Davis all over again. The penetration into the backfield disruptor, not always finishing the play. That was one of my big concerns about him. How many can he finish? Now, that second time he got in, he was definitely still being blocked by the offensive lineman. He slowed up the play, did his job. But I want to see him finish consistently. I think if he can do that, he's got a position on this 49ers defense, and I think he's got a real chance. So, yeah, you're right. He flashed. And Josh is the biggest Robert Beal person that I know, and he said Beal looked lost. And I think we're just not seeing the consistent pass rush. I think that was, if you're going to look at anything for sure with the defense, pass rush was not there. They did end up getting a sack, but that was because they blitzed, and the blitz was good, and that's what forced the quarterback to step up. Malik steps up, and then, boom, here comes Clea Davis to get him, and it's a great pursuit. But I think that was an issue in this football game is pass rush, and unfortunately, that's what everyone got to see, what I've been talking about, what I've been seeing at training camp. Evan Anderson, Shaquille Brown, they just don't produce any pass rush at all when they're a defensive tackle. You get it from Clea Davis. You get it from all the other guys, Jordan Elliott. You get it from Malik Collins and Hargrave. And I know those guys are supposed to do it, but when it comes to the backup guys, T.Y. McGill does it, Clea Davis does it, but Evan Anderson and Shaquille Brown don't. So they have to be really good at stopping the run. I'm not sure they were really good at stopping the run again tonight. So that's something that I think the 49ers are still going to be looking at, and I think it's going to be hard for those guys to step in and lose ready. Look at this, lose ready for it. Trent, Banks, Zakel, Pooney, and McKivitz to be the starting offensive line. Sounds pretty interesting. Mr. Corey says Brendel has a $5 million cap savings. Come on, Zakel. Hey, you know what? You never know. I don't think it happens. I root for Nick Zakel for sure. I thought he was going to be out of this thing after last year and the poor showing. And I think that he's earned a little bit more goodwill with how much he's improved. And we got to give him credit for coming out there and competing. Bravo to him. Season last year ended because of injury. He steps in and makes some plays. Mr. Court says, can't believe how wrong I was about Drake Jackson. It's unfortunate because I think when you look at Drake Jackson, you see all the talent. And that's the thing with Robert Beal. You see all the talent, but they have to produce. And Drake Jackson struggled to stop the run, and now he's just struggling to get healthy. We'll see what happens with Drake Jackson another day, but I wouldn't give up on it yet. Key says Saubert looks good, better than Warner possibly. The thing about Saubert is he blocks like Warner, and Warner was a phenomenal blocker, but he catches the ball like Dwelly. So that duality of the position is finally what you get. You got it with George Kittle. Now you're getting it with Saubert. And it's not that Eric Saubert is going to catch the ball like George Kittle, run after the catch like George Kittle. That's not what he's going to do. But what he is still a threat to catch the ball. Charlie Warner was not a legitimate threat to catch the football, but Eric Saubert is. So now linebackers and safeties have to pay attention to him and can't sell out against the run. So it just opens some more doors for the San Francisco 49ers. And I think that's the key to finding that tight end two that can do that. So now they have two guys, and it's important for the 49ers to have. So, yeah, Eric Saubert is going to be tight end two. And, the question marks about tight end 3, tight end 4, those are going to have to be answered. But I think Saubert's very comfortable. And I think George Kittle spelled it out really well. He understands this offense. He played with Houston. He played with Miami. He feels comfortable. He knows when to sit down. He's never going to have like big, wow plays, but he's going to be consistent. And that's what the 49ers have been looking for behind George Kittle for a while. Filthy Casual says, I heard Trent got penalized almost $1 million for missing this game. Hope he gets signed soon. Yeah, that's correct. So Trent Williams has been being fined $50,000 per game, per practice of training camp that he missed. He missed 13 practices, making it the equivalent of $650,000 lost. And then, yes, he gets fined $1 million or right close to $1 million per preseason game he misses. So, yeah, he's definitely going to fill it in his pocketbook, but he's had multiple contracts. So he's got money. He's not worried about the money compared to someone like Brandon Ayuk, who has never had that second contract. I think that's one of the big differences. But, yeah, right now Trent Williams, not really worried about it. So that's one thing we know we're going to have to see. Key says, how was Renardo Green today? Well, I think Renardo Green had some mistakes. I think that there were some coverage issues, maybe where he went the wrong way, and I think that's to be expected because the 49ers are asking a lot of Renardo Green early. They're playing him at two different positions. He's playing outside corner. He's playing inside corner. They're asking him to play outside and then move in on nickel like they do Diamond Lenore. And sometimes that could be a lot. Renardo Green's intelligent. He's crazy skilled. He's looked very good at training camp over the last couple weeks. But I think that Renardo Green a couple of times got caught out of position, and that's normal. We saw it from Alec Mustafa. We saw it from him. We've seen it from others in the past. I think as preseason goes on, I think we'll see a more comfortable Renardo Green. I still think he's the fourth best defensive back as far as cornerback on this team. I think he's behind, of course, Charvarius Ward, Diamond Lenore, and Isaac Yedem, who's dealing with an ankle. We didn't get to see him tonight, but I think Renardo Green's doing pretty good. He's just, there was some mistakes, a couple mistakes here and there, and I'm sure that those things will start getting cleaned up. The good thing about preseason, you want to see mistakes if you're a coach, because then you can coach them up on it. So make your mistakes now. Don't make them later when you get into the regular season, and then everyone will feel comfortable. 40 Breakdown says left tackle wasn't an issue tonight, though. I think for the most part, they did a pretty good job. I think it probably helped that the Tennessee Titans didn't have Harold Landry, rushing the passer. But you're right. I mean, it wasn't. And that's not even with we didn't have Jalen Moore. But that's the thing. They brought in Chris Hubbard, and Chris Hubbard used to start a lot of games for the Tennessee Titans. He started over 60 games in his career. That's why the 49ers went to some of these key veterans. They know how to play, and they know how to get things done. So I think that's why they're really comfortable with having veterans, because they know how to play this game, and they've logged a lot of snaps. There's not a lot of things they haven't seen yet. Mr. Corey says, you think Elijah Mitchell is on this team week 1? Absolutely. Elijah Mitchell has looked really good at training camp. I know he's missed a week, or he's going to miss a week because of a strained hamstring. But if you would have seen the last practice that I saw him in, Elijah Mitchell was the best running back on the field, and it wasn't close. Explosiveness, explosive plays, catching the ball, would have taken one of those to the house. He still looked as advertised. There's no real upsides from trading him. Keep him. So you have him, Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason. You feel comfortable with those three guys, and if an injury strikes, you're still too deep at the position, and that's ultimately what you need. So I think he will be on the team week 1. I don't think that's really a question. I know a lot of people have talked about the potential trade for him, but I don't think he's going to get traded. I think he's going to be on this roster, as well he should, because of how well he's played. So any other guys that had a good game? I mean, Trent Taylor did have 3 catches for 48 yards. I thought Taylor had a couple plays that one that Dobbs moves to the left, steps up in the pocket, starts to roll to the left, and then throws back across his body, makes a throw to Trent Taylor. I thought that was nice. We saw some moments from Trent Taylor today. We mentioned Frank Darby earlier. I thought he had a pretty good game as well. And so those guys definitely got it done. I thought we saw a couple moments in this game as far as running the football from Cody Schrader. But if you look at the stats, it's not going to look good. But I thought that, Schrader had that outside toss play that looked pretty good. A couple plays where, he read it. And he also had a blitz pickup that was pretty good. But overall, after Jordan Mason, every other running back didn't look great. And some of that could have been the Tennessee Titans blitzing so much, loading the box, trying to make the 49ers run game unsuccessful. And I thought that they did a pretty good job overall. So Lou says, how many players do they keep on the O-line? It's either going to be 9 or 10. I've been guessing that it was going to be 9, which is going to make it really difficult. Because the Niners have been willing to keep a left tackle and a right tackle. If as far as a backup, if you do that, that's 7, which only allows you to keep 2 more interior offensive linemen. If you do that, that means you are probably keeping like a guy like John Feliciano. You keep a guy, maybe like, Spencer Burford. If he's starting, then you're keeping Dominic Pooney. There might not be a spot for Nick Zakelj unless they can play one of those guys as a tackle. So they're going to have to play some sort of games. Maybe they could keep 10. Maybe they try to work someone to the practice squad. But, the 49ers are going to have to play some games here to be able to keep the offensive linemen that they want to keep. And I think that's really tough. 49ers Breakdown says Darby over Bell. I thought Frank Darby, he had the 1 catch. I thought he looked pretty good. Darby has looked good at training camp. He's had moments where he's made some key catches. Malik Turner, who the 49ers had to put on IR, and he's gone. He actually looked really good when he was in training camp over the last couple weeks before he was hurt. So the 49ers still haven't figured out who's going to be wide receiver 6. I think there's a lot of guys in the mix for it. And we're probably going to have to see what happens with Jacob Cowing. Ricky Pearsall still hurt. Those are some things that need to be answered. But I thought that some guys that are in the mix for competing for roster spots at wide receiver did pretty good today. Chris Conley, Trent Taylor, Frank Darby, Tay Martin. And I think this is the first time Tay Martin's been thrust into that conversation again, because he was just hurt for so long during training camp that we never really got to see him perform and get out there on the field and make plays. So I think that's something to remember, is that we're probably going to see Tay Martin need to step up again. He's going to be a part of that list now of guys who need to make a move and need to make plays for the San Francisco 49ers team if they're going to go ahead and make this roster. And so I think it's something that's tough, but we'll see. Maybe he'll get it done. I mean, he's been hovering around this team for a while on the practice squad for 2 years. He showed up at rookie minicamp and worked really hard. And, he understands this offense inside and out. And I thought that he looked pretty good today. We were getting moments where I think if he had made that catch down the sideline from Brandon Allen, that we might be talking about Tay Martin needs to be wide receiver 6. I mean, he had a really good performance in this game, and I was happy for him because he does work his butt off and work hard, and that's important. He said JP Mason needs to be running back 2. Other teams hate tackling him. Yeah, I think they do. I think they hate tackling him. He carries people. He's got pretty good vision. He's got physicality. He's definitely a good running back, and I think the 49ers feel more comfortable with him than they've ever felt with the way that he blocks, the way he catches the ball in the backfield and make plays. So, yeah, I think that Jordan Mason is moving himself up, and I don't know how the 49ers are going to go with their decisions on playing time. That's for Bobby Turner to figure out. But right now, I do know they got Jordan Mason, they got Elijah Mitchell, and they got to feel very comfortable with those 2 guys filling in for Christian McCaffrey when McCaffrey's got to take a step back and take a play off here or there, or maybe not get as many carries. So that's good for the 49ers. And what's up to Spy McDanger in the house? Says go Niners. And he said, hit that like button. Yeah, please hit the like button if you haven't already. Really appreciate it. It means a lot. Filthy says, when do you think we're going to see Pearsall play? I have no idea. Unfortunately, I mean, he got hurt at practice. He was dealing with a shoulder, and he had gotten hurt in OTAs, and Kyle Shanahan alluded to the fact it was the same shoulder. And so they're probably going to be very precautious with him. He did not make the trip to Tennessee, and sometimes that means, they don't want him on the plane for any reason. They're worried about inflammation or other things. So I don't know how significant this injury is. I'm hoping it's nothing serious, and I'm hoping that by the time we get to the last preseason game, then maybe he'd be able to go. But the truth is, we might not see Ricky Pearsall for the preseason because things are going to happen pretty rapidly. They're going to have joint practices during the middle of next week, and then they have the Sunday game against New Orleans. But right after that, they have a quick turnaround. They play Friday, August 23rd against the Las Vegas Raiders. So there's not really a long turnaround for him to be able to get ready and healthy. So I don't know. I think there's a chance we might not see Ricky Pearsall for the preseason. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that we're able to see him maybe in that finale against the Raiders and he gets out there. I think it could be, a lot of fun to get to see Pearsall. We've seen him at practice, and I've seen moments where he's looked really good. He carries himself different than everybody else. Pretty fantastic player. So I hope that we get to see him because I want everyone to see what we've been able to see out at training camp. And if you don't see it in the game, a lot of times you don't get to see it. And that's unfortunately how it is. But please like and subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening to audio platform 49ers Cutback on Believe, please give it a 5-star rating. And this episode was brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Until then, stay safe. And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.